like to call the Joint Special School Building Committee to order. We're at Nashua High School North Boardroom. It's Thursday, August 22nd, 2024, and it's 7:30 p.m. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Dowd?
Present.
Alderman Wilshire? Not here. Alderman Timmons? Here. Alderman Sullivan?
Here.
Alderman Lopez?
Here.
Miss Raymond?
Here.
Miss Bishop is here. Miss Gilio?
Here.
Miss Daniels-Williams?
Here.
Miss Prin?
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Excellent. Alderman Wilshire is starting her vacation, so she's not here this evening. Okay. Roll call. If the clerk would please lead us in the prayer, and Alderman Lopez lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Almighty God, you have the high honor and serious duty to manage the educational affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with a spirit of unity and understanding, which enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all of our fellow citizens. So help us God. Amen.
Republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. The meeting of July 25th, 2024, if there's no objections, we'll waive the reading, accept the minutes, and place them on file. Remarks by chairman. A couple things. All projects are going very, very well, as you'll hear from Ken and Brendan. And yeah, Matt. For some reason, I was thinking you're the guys at the work. Anyway, next meeting is September 26th, 7 p.m. right here. Okay. School administration. Dr. Andre, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, just know again, echo your remarks and thanking everybody. We have 3 more wake-ups until we welcome our kids back to school, or 3 more wake-ups for school days, business days, and our schools are in great shape due to this committee and the teamwork around this table. So again, thank you, and I'm sure the kids are going to be really happy in the conditions of the school. So looking forward to a fantastic 24-25 school year. And again, thanks to this committee.
Just in case you've noticed, our architect is not here tonight. He asked for the night off and talked to Rick and I, and we said, yep. So he stayed in Maine tonight.
Yeah, that's a long ride for a couple minutes when they're just doing punch list items pretty much at this point. But yeah, everything's going really well. We have a couple things to talk about tonight. Nothing major though, so the projects are very well. So we have no architect's report tonight, so we'll go right into the construction manager from Harvey. Ken, are you starting?
Good evening, everybody. Ken Lemarier, project manager with Harvey Construction. I will start off with a brief update on Brian S. McCarthy Middle School. Not many items to cover, which is a good sign given school starts on Tuesday. Then Brendan will take us through the updates at the Pennachuck Middle School, dehumidification, Dr. Crisp Elementary School, security, and then he and Matt will run through Maine Dunstable, Birch Hill updates. So starting on the exterior of the Brian S. McCarthy Middle School. So since this aerial photo was taken, I believe this was taken in late July. All of the parking striping has been completed, as well as the muster point locations for the fire alarm and fire drill in emergency locations. So that's all been taken care of. The landscaping and athletic field tune-up is ongoing. We did one final cut this week, and the athletic fields are being striped as well, I believe either tomorrow or either today or tomorrow. And D'Antonio Drive was officially turned over back on the 1st of August. Alderman Dowd, I don't know if you want to discuss the dedication ceremony that took place at all.
Yeah, they were at the dedication ceremony. There were probably about, 30, 35 people. Some of the family came all the way from Baltimore, and they hadn't seen the other family members for quite a while, but we're all very appreciative of naming street after their father, who was a war hero in World War II, was decorated a couple of times by Dwight Eisenhower, who was the Supreme Allied Commander. And so it was a very nice ceremony, and the plaque is up on a granite post, and the kids will know who owned the property way back. So, thanks.
So just to echo, so our landscapers are gonna be kind of like throughout the fall, just maintaining and keeping the site, upkeep going through into the winter. That's part of their contract. So we'll just work with Mr. Smith's team and the grounds crew to keep the school looking nice through this first fall. Moving to the interior, so punch list items, we're down to less than 20 items. So on a project this large, that's a pretty huge milestone to reach at this stage of the game. The mechanical, electrical, and plumbing commissioning process is ongoing. We meet weekly, basically to kind of make sure that the equipment that was installed meets the specifications and kind of learn to like how the building is going to be operating, working with Mr. Smith's team and the facilities team as well. All the owner training, so part of the handoff that takes place with a new building and any type of construction is we want to make sure that the staff is trained. So we've just about completed all the training. So that includes all the mechanical plumbing systems. The gym equipment was completed last weekend. All of the kitchen equipment. We have this nice new kitchen. There's a lot of new equipment that's in there. So we've walked through the kitchen staff and make sure everybody knows how to use everything. We videotape them and then we turn that over so everybody has something to reference at a later date. All the electrical, audio, visual, security is complete. The only thing that is outstanding right now is we have scoreboard training for the gym that's going to be taking place after Labor Day weekend. So we'll have the gym teachers and Mr. Smith's staff and the custodians there as well. Couple of, I guess, bookkeeping items. So just a reminder, we had the temp certificate of occupancy issued in April that allowed the principals and the custodians to get into the building and start kind of, learning the building and getting the furniture in place and kind of used to the surroundings. Substantial completion was issued on July 8th. That is basically the official transfer of ownership of the building from Harvey Construction to school district. And then tomorrow, I am getting the official piece of paper from the building department in Nashua, the certificate of occupancy, which officially will close the project. So then I guess the last thing is the first day of school is the 27th and teachers start on the 26th. So it's always a Friday, so. Any questions on McCarthy?
Questions on McCarthy? None?
Actually, if I could. So we could have covered this in our comments before. So the state requires us to submit forms and more forms and more forms. And so we'll send a package to them to assure them that the school is ready for occupancy and meets all the safety criteria and whatnot. So those forms are submitted towards the end of June. And then last week, I did a walkthrough with a person from that staff and told us we passed. I haven't seen the document yet, but so school is officially approved by the state.
Yep. All right. Brendan?
Hello, everybody. Brendan Rell, Harvey Construction Project Manager. I'll walk you through Pennachuck Middle School, then Matt and I will bring you through Birch Hill, Maine Dunstable, and then Dr. Crisp. So down at Pennachuck Middle School, it's been a very productive month. On August 7th, so the first week of the month, we were able to get our above ceiling inspection for the North Addition, which is down at the bottom of the screen here. And earlier in the summer, back in June, we were able to get the above ceiling inspection for this space. And what that means is the system in its entirety, all of the VRF cassette units And everything that goes above the ceiling to make this system operate has been completed from an installation standpoint. With respect to startup and do we have air conditioning in the classrooms yet? That will come after we have completed the work at the roof level and completed the system in its entirety, as all the components have to function together. So that is really what we're focusing on at this point. As you can see, the south addition, the north addition, as well as all the piping that we install in the attic spaces, all of that work has been completed throughout the course of April through now August. And we are now working on the final pieces of the puzzle, which are up here, your rooftop equipment connections, which I'll show some pictures of in the next slide. Putting in the electrical infrastructure that'll power all of the equipment that generates the cooling. And then a complex piece of the puzzle is after all of the piping is completed, so we've been pressure testing it to ensure that it's installed with integrity throughout the course of the summer. And we pressurize it with gases to do that. So at the end of the summer, we evacuate all of those gases and then we charge the piping with the refrigerant that generates the cooling. And that is a several week long process. And once that is completed, that will put us into commissioning and closeout, which is just starting up the system, getting it operating, similar to what Ken just said, teaching the occupants how this functions and ensuring that it functions properly. And then at that point, turning it over to you folks to live comfortably in the classrooms. So, with that being said, we are now targeting 9/23 as our first week of potential startup and commissioning. And that'll push us into commissioning throughout the remainder of September and into October, with the intentions of wrapping up the project and having this system operating for you come the end of October. Few pictures here just to show all the way over on the left. This is what the classrooms look like. They now have these cassette units installed in the ceilings, and all of the infrastructure is complete and it's back to a finished state. Floors are waxed, and the occupants have been moved in for several weeks, ready to occupy. Over here, you're seeing a lot of the infrastructure that's being installed on the roof. That is the electric feed that goes all the way from your main gear to the gear on the roof. And then here is your gear on the roof, which will produce the cooling that is generated down in your classroom spaces. So we are working on installing a lot of components that look similar to what you see here, piping and electrical components to get the system up and operating. Any questions on Penachuk?
Anything on Penachuk? A couple things. The Board of Aldermen passed the legislation. There's no parking, stopping, or standing on Manchester Street near the entrance to the school anymore. And there will be some blue cars there to make sure that people can read the signs on the first couple days of school. And it's also signs on Ferry Road that says don't block driveways. See how things go, but okay.
Jumping into Birch Hill and Maine Dunstable. So just again, showing the slide to give you an overview of all the areas we've been working on. I have a abundance of photos to follow to show you all the progress that has been made throughout the summer, and I'll go through some dates. So early this week on Monday, 8/19, we had our final life safety walkthroughs with the fire department. All of our building final inspections were completed the week of 8/12. We had various inspections spanning all the way back to July and throughout the course of August. And we did our phase 3 punch list with Harriman on August 8th. So a lot of important dates as we've turned over several of the spaces as listed on the left here. So I'll jump into some photos to show you what the school looks like now. So this is the main level of Birch Hill, and you're seeing all of the new floors that have gone in. What you're not seeing is all of the hard work that Matt and his team has performed over the last
All
several
hidden.
months as we've hidden it amongst all of these beautiful items.
So, by the way, we were in the school today. Anybody that ever been in Birch Hill before, you won't recognize it. so much brighter, so much lighter, so much more space and individual classrooms. It's, you never know it was the same school. Same thing with Maine Dunstable, but
One very exciting update. So what in the center photo here, you see several skylights above you. These skylights were existing, and as part of the roofing replacement, we replaced those skylights. There are 5 of them, so you can walk underneath them. They're bright. You can see through them. They're not yellow and stained anymore. A very huge milestone for us today was down at Birch Hill. At about noontime, we finished the roof. Not in its entirety. There are several details left to finish. There are items to work on with Matt's team. However, the roof membrane in its entirety has been installed on Birch Hill. Maine Dunstable will be about 2 more weeks.
so you'll remember the schedule originally called for late September, sometime in October. They're done. Had armies up there working, even in the rain.
25 to 30 guys a day. Yeah. So it's very productive summer. On the left, you're seeing the refreshed computer labs. You do see one of Matt's items here. Want to speak to that, Matt?
Yep, Matt Smith with EEI. That's one of the cassettes. It's fairly similar to what they did over at Pennachuck. So we installed 2 of those, one in the computer lab and one down in the data room. And we have gotten those started up, and those are now functioning and cooling the space nicely.
And additionally, all the way over on the right, this is the refreshed library space. So you can see all the new flooring, the new ceiling, all the new light fixtures that Matt and his team installed. And as I said, what you don't see is all the hard work that Matt put up above that ceiling.
Sharon knows it's missing something else, right? Books.
So 2 weeks ago, we were able to turn the media center over. So 2 weekends ago, the custodians were able to move in, and 1 weekend ago, they were able to move in at Maine Dunstable. So they were, pretty well set up when I walked through with Mr. Smith and his team today. One item here, so this is a PCO that we had presented to you folks for the windows at the exterior of the building. Those are the 2 remaining windows that would not have been replaced as part of the project. Those have since been replaced, and all of the glass is installed, which is what you don't see in this photo here. So those are all complete, and the building exterior is now tight. And on the right side, this is a picture of Maine Dunstable, and you can see very similar patterns. No wax on the floor yet in that photo, but very similar state at that school. Here's some photos from the front office spaces and the admin spaces, refreshed offices and nurses' rooms, and the front corridors as well. And then this is an area that is in progress. So this area turns over to you folks in October. However, we are currently tracking a initial punch date with Harriman on September 19th for this space as it's moving along very quickly. One of the things that was very astonishing, to Rick's point, you can see here in this photo, this is Birch Hill. This was taken on Monday. So that photo is the corridor on the lower level, I believe. Second. Sorry about that. So that photo there, you can stand. We're standing on the far end of one of the corridors. If you recall, last year when we were renovating phase 2, or earlier this year when we were renovating phase 3, so half of that corridor has been closed off. We are now in a state where these classrooms you're seeing here are behind these doors. So we are working directly in those spaces with an isolated entry from the students. But what the students return to is essentially a finished space. The entire corridor is put together and all the finished flooring is in, math systems are operating. And so now it's just a matter of getting these 6 classrooms up and running, then getting off to the next phase.
Remember months ago, that same hallway was a trench. If you remember, especially at Birch Hill, we were digging into ledge to get the pipes in.
And then one of the most exciting pieces, I showed this slide last month, all of the hard work that's been going on at the front entrance. Here is what it's starting to look like, and as of today, all of the drywall inside is finished. The storefront assembly, which is the window and the doors and all the glass, that has been installed. All of the hardware components are being put on that, and the final pieces of the puzzle will be the panels that wrap all of this wood that you're seeing. And when all of that comes to a state of completion, essentially mid-September, we will turn this space back. Currently, we have the contingency plan for the entry through the cafeteria. And our hopes are to potentially get this back earlier as long as everything goes well as reviewed in today's meeting. And some photos just to show you of all the hard work that went into the roof. What you see here on the right side is actually the deck below the paper that was applied to it over 50 years ago. This layer that you're seeing right here is the first layer of roofing that was up on that roof. And that is the tar and gravel. That's what you're seeing here. And these screws were what held down the roof that was applied on top of that initial roof. So the process to remove that is cutting it in several squares, as you see there, and working very diligently to pull up piece by piece, clean the roof, and then start to apply the new roofing. So they generally work on one half of the roof, get the new roof on, and then start to work on the other side to work around weather and rain. And a few more pictures here. You see here a lot of the finished roof. That was at Birch Hill. And then this is over at Birch Hill as well, more of the decking, more of the roof that's been removed, and just kind of see all the progress that's happened over there. Any questions on Birch Hill or Main Dunstable? Rick, do you have, you want to discuss the elevator?
You have a question first, Ms. Raymond?
It can wait till after you talk about the elevator.
Really? When at Main Dunstable, when they removed the flooring from the elevator, because we had to do, it was like the other flooring, it needed to be remediated because of mastic, found that the elevated cab was not attached to the floor of the elevator. And we've been going around and around with Stanley about what do we do, and in the meantime, Stanley's also the investigator for the state, so they informed the state. The state sent risk management a certificate saying that we had 30 days to fix the problem or they were going to fine us. The city, not the school district. So we have to address what we're going to do with the elevator. The elevator is over 50 years old. Right now, we're doing a temporary fix so the custodians can put something in the elevator, send it to the second floor, but the state is not allowing any humans in the elevator. We have options to consider. The minimum option is replacing the cab itself, which is about 85,
79,000,
79,000. But they won't guarantee that when they put the new cab in that some of the other components won't work the same. They suggest replacing the entire elevator. We don't know the response from Risk yet because Risk has been on vacation till next Monday. But one way or the other, we have to do something with the elevator. We could take the option of just replacing the cab, but then if the elevator doesn't work right, then we'll be piecemealing the repairs and it'll cost a lot more than if we tackle the entire repair. To replace the entire elevator, which we have to make a decision on quick because the state's slamming our fingers with a hammer, is about $250,000. Now, there may be some additional costs beyond that because when we pull the elevator out, we're going to need some work from Harriman, Harvey, and EEI. We don't know what that number is yet, but in order for me to be able to get Stanley on contract to do the entire elevator, I would need authority from this board to allow a contract up to $250,000 for them to replace the elevator. There's two options. You can give me that authority tonight and we'll work with Stanley to get it going. Or once we have the final pricing, we'll have to have another emergency meeting, which won't be long from now because school's gonna be without an elevator for a long time. And they already have a student in a wheelchair. And we had discussions today about what is and isn't allowed, because evidently a student will have to go to the second floor, and there's emergency wheelchairs, they can go upstairs, but it's not supposed to be a standard thing. And the state probably wouldn't allow us to do that anyway unless we have a repair plan in place, because we're gonna have to ask them for an extension on the 30 days. If we have a plan in place with Stanley, who's also their inspector, which we find a little interesting, Stanley will make sure we get the extension. But things would need to be ordered and you know, it could be several months without an elevator. So we can have some discussion now and so, yes, Ms. Raymond.
What is our legal obligation under the Americans with Disabilities Act for a student in a wheelchair? I mean, one would think that we would have to accommodate that student and any other student who like sprains an ankle or has the need of an elevator.
Andrew?
So,
We had discussions with.
yeah, so the quick and dirty, it's not simple, is that you move the school around to meet the needs of the student. So if any class that he would have on the second floor or third floor, you move them all to the first floor. You move a whole classroom and you rearrange the school. So, I mean, that's the quick and dirty of it. And so you accommodate for that student, which might mean moving a fourth grade classroom to the first floor and a first grade classroom. So you move the school around to meet those needs.
I mean, because we have, we have to accommodate this child. The child has a right to access their education, period. So, but my concern too is like, how do we don't know. I mean, kids are active kids. I mean, how many kids sprain their ankles, break a leg, et cetera, during the course of a school year and have need of an elevator? Like, I'm really worried about the other 300 kids in the school who need to access the second floor.
Dr. Andrew?
So we get into like what's a temporary situation or what's a long term. So we'll work with it. It's unfortunately it's not my first time that I would have to rearrange a school or a student schedule when situations like this happen. So it's unfortunate, but that's what you do.
As far as this, two things. As far as the state's concerned, once we have a plan with Stanley, they'll allow us to do the fix without any further action from the state. Because they understand that, you know, you don't just, like plugging in a lamp, you know, it takes quite a bit to replace that elevator, including ordering the parts. Fortunately, Birch Hill does not have the same issue, so that elevator is fine. Yes. Ms. Hart.
If we're doing inspections yearly on the elevator, how is this something that was missed prior, or is it something that just can break so quickly?
Well, until they took the flooring off, they didn't realize that it had disconnected. The elevator still goes up and down, but now since it's been inspected by Stanley and the state's been advised, there's no people can go on that elevator.
Is there a second opinion we could get?
No, because the other company that used to be involved was bought by Stanley, so.
This seems like a conflict of,
And getting into a third-party elevator company is probably not a good deal. We want to stay pretty consistent with our company.
I would just wonder if there's some accountability if this was something that has been broken for a long time and they've missed it, like it, I don't know.
No, they didn't know. Custodians wouldn't have been riding the elevator if they knew.
No, and I don't mean us. I mean, if it's the same company doing the inspections every year and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we know they've got this bond money. Guess what just broke?
Well, the disconnect was hidden by the carpeting and stuff that was in the elevator. It's when they took it out that they realized it.
Wait, but they also.
Okay.
Anyway, so like I said, we have a real-time emergency fix, which is gonna make sure the floor doesn't fall off the elevator when they put something in it, like, so the custodians can bring stuff up to the second floor, but they can't ride in it. And that's a very inexpensive short-term fix, but we need the long-term fix. I mean, we could replace the cab, which was our initial thought, but when we found out it was that much money,
It's like a third.
third of the total cost, and then you don't know if the other components that work the elevator are gonna work with that new cab. You know, it's 50 years old. They've already said that what was the part? The actuator? or
The valve.
Valve?
Yep.
You know, it's 50 years old, it's obsolete, they can't replace it, can't fix it. If it doesn't work, now you're back to
I just,
additional time, delays, costs. So repair, putting the cab in and then doing everything else piecemeal is a lot more expensive.
yeah, we can't, I just don't think we can cut corners with other people's children. To me, that's just not ethical.
Sullivan?
Thank you. So let's dig into the financials. Let's move this forward. If I look at the financials for this project, I see that we have a contingency of 1.6
Yes.
million.
We'll take it out.
Okay. What's the percentage? How far along are we through this project? Are we 50%, 75%?
About 72%.
72%.
Yep.
Between 70 and 75. One broken elevator.
I like your style. I like that.
I'm an engineer by training.
72.3.
Yep. That's more like it.
1.6 million, so that's where we would have it. So just to be clear, as long as we have, so I'm thinking now about getting fined by the state. We have 30 days to enter into an agreement to replace it, or when does the clock start and the meter start running on those fines?
The 30 days has already started, and it's a simple thing, it's a phone call. Yes, we've been authorized to replace the elevator, and Stanley will take care of the state extension.
One more question on the process. Do we now have to come up with, we're doing a PCO tonight. Do we have to do that for this project as well?
So we would have to do a PCO to release the elevator. However, if Alderman Dad were provided the signing authority when we receive the final pricing, he would be able to
Right now, I have
execute that.
50,000 authorization, and then bring it back to the board if 50,000, which I would have to have authority from this board to proceed. And then the final PCO will come back.
Yeah.
So-
And
so-
I think one thing that I would want to bring up, which is what I've emphasized to Mr. Smith and Alderman Dowd, is the lead times associated with an elevator are exorbitant. It is substantial lead times to get the elevator. So I know that is one of the pieces of coming forth tonight, once we've been presented with the pricing and the information, is due to the urgency to get it released, to make sure we can get it in time and perform the work while we're down there for you.
I'm sure I'm gonna get a call Monday morning from Jen Duchesne in Risk saying, whoa, what are you doing on this? Because the 30 days is already a week gone by. And we did calculate ahead of time that we have the money would come out of contingency, and we won't need any additional money for anything on this project. In fact, I've made that quite clear, I think.
Well, you're on the record now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think Ms. Timmons has had her
yes.
hand raised.
Simmons,
Well,
Alderwoman Timmons, sorry. I miss you sitting next to me on our side of the world. Can you put your microphone on, though?
oh. You pulled up the, I had that other one that was a
You
little
want this?
button before. So, you already asked the question, but I do have one other. Do we move tonight to authorize the 250,000?
you would authorize me to enter into an agreement with Stanley to replace the entire elevator at a cost not to exceed 250,000. We'll see if we can beat them up a little bit to get that down. Again, that's just for Stanley. There will be some additional cost from Harriman, Harvey, and EEI. Just, we don't know what that is exactly yet, but it was the same thing we did at Franklin Street because Harriman has to make it part of their drawings. Harvey has to,
Price it.
pricing, and EEI will have to make sure all the wiring and everything's correct, because it'll be a new elevator, so things will be a little different than
How's the other elevator in the other school?
it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, because
Do we want to double check that?
Yeah.
Same age, but
50-year-olds have a tendency to break down.
right now, it's operating fine, and it's been inspected by Stanley, and it's fine.
Okay.
If I could, we actually replaced some key parts of that elevator a couple of years ago. I can't remember exactly how much we spent, 150,000 maybe.
Ms. Bishop?
Are there other options aside from an elevator to create a lifting experience for people who are mobility challenged? Like the open air lifts that don't have the top and it's attached to the staircase? Like, are there other options beside an encased lift?
Let Harvey answer that, but my initial guess is because to do that, it's going to cost a lot more than just replacing an elevator, because you're going to make a place for it to work, which
Yeah.
means adding on to the building probably, which is far more expensive. And you can't have it internal because the stairs are all in place. There's no place to put one of those.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
the
I
lift
do.
that's like,
Like we have at Broad Street
right.
into the cafeteria. That won't work here.
Yeah.
There goes the 507 again. 20 years ago, I told them to buy pneumatic tires for
The
those
open air
things.
ones that you put the wheelchair and then you lock them and then it goes up. They have one outside of like Estabrook.
So I will need a motion to allow me to enter into a contract with Stanley on a not to exceed 250,000 to replace the entire elevator.
So moved.
By Alderman.
Second.
Any other discussion? Alderman Sullivan.
You mentioned Stanley Elevator. I know there are other elevator companies out there. I mean, do we have time to get into a competitive bid situation to see if because nothing, moves the needle like a little competition. So if Stanley knew that Otis Elevator came in
This was
and,
bought by Stanley bought Otis.
Oh.
Yeah. So
That's-
it's a very good question, and that was one of the many things we've considered. Our primary concern are two things, really. The timing. We've been chasing pricing from Stanley for nearly 4 months.
okay,
The abatement was performed back in April. The floor, or the fact that it was separated, was identified, I believe, in May. So we've been pushing and pushing to try and get a solution from them, and that was finally delivered to Mr. Smith and myself within the last couple of weeks here. So to try and get pricing from somebody else, I'd be concerned about the lead times, as I mentioned. And then the next piece would be that Mr. Smith works with Stanley to service the elevators, amongst most of his buildings, is my understanding. And it becomes, very tricky, is the way I describe it, if you start bringing somebody else in.
Even the new elevators in the McCarthy School of Stanley, and
Correct.
To try and work with another company and get a pricing and satisfy the state's 30 days probably isn't going to work. And you go to another company, remember Stanley's the one doing the inspections.
True.
Yep.
I just have a clarification question. So if
Get into litigation of that.
yeah, I know. So if Stanley knew that there was faulty elevator work back in May, why are we all of a sudden getting the 30-day you need to fix it notice now?
The tag expires August 1st, so that's when they perform their inspection on the elevator. So once they performed it, that's when the notice
That's
was
when the-
provided, and they conveniently waited until August to provide us with the pricing as well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
We've been going back and forth with trying to get different types of pricing to see what we can
An
do.
awesome
and the
monopoly to
options-
have.
Yes.
The options just weren't there, so. And, I've got over 40 years in logistics and trying to piecemeal this is, I just have, that would end up costing you more, take a longer delay. It's 50 years old, all those parts are 50 years old. If you're gonna do it, we're not gonna touch the school again for a long time. Fix it to last. Yes, Mr. Smith?
I think I heard Alderman Sullivan kind of say, correct me if I'm wrong, is this the only expense we expect to come out of contingency at this point? That was my question.
Which Alderman Dow said,
No additional things we don't already know about.
The Brian's ones will. Oh, you,
Yeah. So
It's an unknown unknown.
so I know things.
okay.
So we have some knowns that will be taken out of contingency. Talking to Brendan, they've received the drawings and they've received all the quotes for all the site work that we have to do at the two schools. So that may be upwards of 600,000
Approximately, yes.
additional. So that would come out of this contingency balance. So that's all just think of, especially Main Dunstable. You walk in front of that school on the sidewalk, there's erosion, there's tripping hazards, it's just a mess. It's concrete curbing, which the plows over the years have just broken it up. So, and there's other trees, I mean, beautification things, there's the fences around the playground. They'll get into all that when they provide their PCO next month or the month after.
Either September or October.
We had talked about a number of those things before.
Yes, that was budgeted
I don't know the
within,
PCO yet, but
within the alternate pricing that.
Right,
and-
you had you had an allowance, but minuscule compared to this.
No, our pricing in the budgetary actually will align very closely. There's some differences with it because Harriman did provide a final design, and what we budgeted within the alternates was based upon a preliminary design, but it is aligned very closely.
You need
with-
another
That is
$600,000.
correct. That is correct, Sean, yes.
And then the other piece is the transformer at Birch Hill, I'm sorry, Main Dunstable.
Main Dunstable.
Again, if you go to take a look at it, it's rusting. The whole pad has gone like this. It's very, very, very old. I'm not sure if it's 50 years old, but it may be close. And so that may potentially be another 150,000. So that,
yeah, so
good. I mean, so probably total between those three things, including the elevator, is going to be about $1 million.
So the contingency account is there for those unknown unknowns, and we certainly didn't know about the elevator. And we've been talking about the outside landscaping and sidewalks since the beginning of the project almost, because it's in bad shape. And the transformer we've had as an alternate since the beginning, we weren't gonna do anything with that unless we had money left at the end.
Can you tell me what the transformer does exactly?
That's-
EEI.
Like it's electrical, I got that, but like,
So
that
from-
sounds like something important.
It is. It's what controls your power. So the primary lines from the street hit that transformer, and then the secondary lines go in and feed your main distribution panel. So it is a integral part to your electrical system.
Is it not it's a step down in the voltage that's on the street?
Yeah, that's what the
So it's like 480 on
transformer
the
either
street.
steps up or steps down, but that one particularly steps down. But yes, so you're taking your primary voltage off of the street, transforming it, stepping it down, and then your secondary lines into your main distribution panel.
And if we have that, it would handle any potential solar. Doesn't cost us anything, so don't worry about contingency. But the transformer, you know, if we get to the end and we have the money, then we'll bring it back to this group for approval. Yes.
So I know sometimes we look at other projects in the future and we say, well, we may possibly have contingency left over from this one that we can put towards this one. We haven't hopefully used this contingency fund to fund other future projects, have we?
No,
Okay.
no. And you can transfer bond money within a project, like Main Dunstable, Birch Hill are a project, so one school to the other.
Right.
middle school project, we had 3 schools involved. So like when we get done with fairgrounds, we took that money that was left there, moved it over to Pennachuck. There's gonna be money left at Pennachuck, and there'll be a lot of money left at McCarthy, and Alderman, I'm sure will. It's just, because of the bond at McCarthy, we just won't be selling a bond for 10 million.
I just want to make sure we're not
No, and this
cutting
project's
ourselves
separate.
short on other things.
Yes, Alderman Sullivan?
Could we please, at the September meeting, so I'm just looking at the financials here, and we're 72% through the project.
Correct.
We've used, with the invoices that we're going to approve tonight, if this is correct, from August, we've used 68% of our budget. So now that we only have less than 30% to go, are we in a position at this point to forecast that final 28%, and account for, okay, we have, according to this, we have 11.8 million left. Can we at the next meeting go through and say, okay, 250,000 for the elevator, the 600,000 for the outside projects that you talked about, the new transformer, and just detail those out so we can get a better understanding, just some breathing room.
Absolutely. I could
Yeah.
do that. Would you mind for the October meeting? I'm collecting the pricing for that site work, so I just want to make sure I have everything, but for,
Yeah, if September is
October.
too early, October would be fantastic.
yeah, not a problem.
Okay, yeah, I'd appreciate it. Just
Yeah.
very high level.
Yep.
One page. That's all I
Oh,
need.
yeah. Rick
Trying to
and
do
I will
that,
put
we're
something together.
Talking about the stuff on the back of an envelope and to make sure that we're not going to exceed what we have for bond money and so far. Fine, and we get a more detailed analysis by that point.
That's great.
No. All right,
Seconded. I'm looking at
we don't need to second it,
8:15.
but if there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Ball's
Oh,
back,
that's very good.
ball's back in your court for
Back to the construction update.
construction.
You've just taken us for a
Different
ride.
project.
Different project. So over to Dr. Crisp. Some exciting updates down here. So some pictures right here. You can see the exterior of the site, and this has completely changed over the last few days. So this right here has all been loamed, seeded. It looks nice and green. Grass is already starting to grow. The irrigation heads are back in. They installed the handrails later this afternoon.
Oh, they're in, good.
Yep, so those are in now. Painting and striping on the new handicap parking spots. The signs have since been installed back here. As I mentioned during the previous meeting, we were able to work with Mr. Smith and his team to remove an old sidewalk that was crumbling and falling apart and was really obsolete with our new concrete sidewalk here. And additionally, we were able to remove an old tripping hazard, about 20 feet of existing sidewalk, and put in new sidewalk just to give a fully refreshed entry to the new vestibule. So despite a very busy summer, we were able to take on a couple of additional items just to make sure that everything was in good shape at the start of school.
All that grass, by the way, had an existing irrigation system, so grass is going to grow.
Yep. No timers and hoses. It's great. A couple items that we are tracking for later on. So one item I was able to work with Mr. Smith and his team to do was provide vinyl door numbers and window decals throughout the project, as there was just hanging paper everywhere. So we will be installing those once they come in. Mr. Smith and his team actually painted all of the doors throughout the school, so they're fresh and new. And we worked with him to remove some signs with our labor, so the doors have all been refreshed and we'll have all new numbers, and all the windows will get numbers as well. Walking you inside the space. So one of the biggest pieces of this project was installing the fire alarm system throughout the entirety of the existing school. It went swimmingly. I cannot commend the efforts of everybody in the school, the fire department, and everybody, getting us our approvals quickly. We were able to test that system on 8/15, received our final state of completion on it. All the pre-testing was done in the weeks before, so we were able to clear Mrs. Hussey, the principal, and her staff to enter the building immediately following that testing on Friday, 8/16, and they've been in the building all week this week. So all the spaces are turned back to them. And we also installed the new intercom PA system throughout the entirety of the school. That is up and operational. And then also the master clock systems. There are new clocks in all the classrooms. And we put all of that on the emergency power as well. So a lot of different things down there, but we're able to get it all buttoned up right before school. And then in the renovation space, so we were originally tracking a turnover of this space Indigenous Peoples Day weekend. And the primary reason for that is just because of such a small project in a short time period. As Alderman Sullivan and I had discussed really early on as we were going through some of the bio packages, some of the lead times on these items are months. And we were able to work with H.L. Turner, the architect on this project, and Mr. Smith, his team, to get everything approved. And we are only waiting on a few late items. So as a result, we are actually able to put in a quick temporary solution for one of those 8 items or 3 items and turn over the space approximately a month early. What that means is because we are installing a temporary item, we do want to remain on site to install that permanent item, which comes in about 2 weeks later. But we do want to get the space back quickly to Mrs. Hussey as she's been displaced for a couple months here. So you can see here all the various items we have completed over the last couple weeks here, and the pictures you're seeing here. So today, this room is fully put back together. The ceiling is entirely installed. All the floors are in. Millwork's been installed. So it's progressing so quickly, it's actually hard to capture pictures to show you. So a lot of good work down there, and excited to turn it over quickly. The fuel oil tank. Did you want to discuss that? Yes. Yeah.
All right. As we were going through this project, we found that this school is can be used as a shelter. And used to have an oil generator, and it was replaced a long time ago with with a propane, isn't it? Propane or natural gas generator? Natural gas. And they left the tank in the ground with fuel in it. And it's right next to the school. We went to risk management to see if the city would get rid of it because it's potentially dangerous. And the answer was no. The answer was no. So we originally looked at just pumping the fuel out of it. But while Harvey is on site, decided that for very short money, we could take the tank out of the ground, bury the stuff up, and get rid of it. Rest, how that's going to be covered.
Yep. So we were able to utilize funds in our project. So we have progressed quickly, and we felt confident in what I have remaining in my budget that I could complete the work and take on this additional scope for you folks. So no PCO, no items to bring forward. We have issued a contract to engage in that work. It has already been permitted through the Nashua Fire Rescue, and we plan to start it on September 9th. It should take about 2.5 weeks to get it out of the ground. They do have to bring the DES down there. They have to monitor it. They have to, take soil samples and send it to the lab, and then they provide you with a full closure report. And one of the unique things about this was that, Mr. Smith and I were not able to locate any records that this tank existed, with the exception of the old documents of the building. So through some investigation with Mr. Connors, Mr. Smith, and myself, we were able to identify a path to get this out of the ground and for relatively short money make it happen. So
The reason we went to risk is because if that tank leaks, now that's going to be a far huger expenditure for the city, and we can do it as a city, far less expensive. They have the money in their budget, they can handle it without any additional cost.
One question on
Simmons.
that, I don't think you can answer that. Is the propane any good? I mean, could we sell it?
No,
Could
no, it's
we-
not propane, this is
Diesel.
diesel
Oh, it's diesel.
It's some sort of diesel, yeah.
patched
mix.
down. I don't know.
Oh, no, okay.
I was kind of surprised that they left fuel in it.
Is it safe to remove it with children in the building?
Well, first of all, we're gonna pump the fuel out of it first. And they're gonna do it when kids aren't in the school.
Okay. Because I like that area, there's always kids there. You've got the community center right next door, you've got the big park right behind
They
it.
would fence this off and do it all.
So you can
Brendan
see
can
in the
explain.
top left-hand photo here, it's a little difficult to see, but right behind that concrete truck. So the fencing, we had the temporary fencing on the site to enclose our areas. We installed all these sidewalks and everything, and we were able to just move that fencing over, enclose our space. We did think that we were initially going to have to take up two exterior doors, a lane of egress out of the building. Luckily, those two classrooms had an exit that was within 100 feet, which is what the fire department requires. Luckily, because of how small the tank is and the proximity with where it is, we are actually able to maintain that lane of travel. So the fence is right up, the equipment will come in, we'll remove the tank within a series of weeks, and do all the testing and documentation, and then get on out of there.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would be relieved if I lived over there if that was gone,
I think principally be very relieved that it's gone.
right? I mean, that's crazy.
How did you guys find this?
Gary.
I know that the Nashua Library has a new lending library and there's a metal detector. Did somebody go out there with it?
It was,
What is
a-
this?
it was a connection somebody followed and say, hey, this goes to a tank that's got fuel in it. And they knew that years ago, they replaced it with that natural gas generator for the, in case
Yeah.
they use the building as a shelter. So.
Like a bomb shelter, you mean?
I wouldn't
not a
say it's
shelter,
bomb
like a-
shelter. I would say a serious storm shelter,
Okay.
but just so, like both the high schools, the McCarthy School all have emergency
Yeah, it's
generators
just we updated that.
they can use. But anyway, so I think we need a motion to let Harvey proceed with getting rid of the tank.
No, it's within their budget already. There's no additional funds required.
Unless anybody has an objection, we'll instruct Harvey to proceed with getting rid of that tank. All right. Let's go. How you wanna,
And just a quick,
I like Gloria's idea of selling it. Our gas. That's a lot of oil tanks.
concerned me the minute I heard about it.
so
My boiler's like 50 years old. It might work in there.
You want me to start off on that?
yeah,
PCO?
yeah, sure.
All right, the other thing we identified with Chris Lassard and Sean and I, we were there, right where that security window is, that's the bullet-resistant glass. You're sitting, looking out into the vestibule. To the left, there's a regular window, which is right near the front door. And we said, that doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. So this PCO is to replace that window with the right type of glass.
$6,000?
It is.
Yes.
So I actually went out to two separate contractors. I have a contractor engaged for this project. His cost was nearly $13,000. So I went with a different contractor to bring a more competitive price, and that was what is presented here.
They have to completely take the old window out, then they have to put the new window in and seal and caulk it with the same type of material.
Yep. Correct.
Everything's included. in
Labor,
that cost, that
demolition,
labor.
the shop drawings and all the submittals and everything. So,
The architect's changing the drawing, which isn't cheap either.
correct. So, this PCO, as described by Alderman Dowd, is for that secure window replacement. If approved, this is for Dr. Crisp Elementary School, PCO number 1, in the value of $6,077.18.
Do I have a motion? Alderman Sullivan made the motion to approve PCO number 1 to replace the window, secure window replacement at the Dr. Chris School. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I have one question before we adjourn. We still got
Yeah, gotta pay some bills.
No. How many we got?
A lot less than we've had before. Yeah, last month was 8 million, just as a
But before the
comparison.
invoices, were you able to move all the temporary rooms in Dr. Burchill? Are they still there or are they gone?
Oh, they'll be there.
They still there?
Those portables won't be moved until next summer, right? Because you have to bring in
Correct.
cranes to lift them up, and they're going to DPW, so rush to move them.
But we're not using them. They just,
Oh,
They are
still being used now.
oh, they still being used?
Till when?
Till approximately February. That's when most of the classrooms will be completed. We move into the gym and the final steps of the process, and then that'll carry us into the beginning of the summer and finish it off and get out of there by removing the portables.
Alderman Lopez.
Follow-up question, because I hadn't actually thought of that. If the school district is giving, I guess, the city of Nashua a bunch of classrooms, what's the process for that? Is it the same as decommissioning Elm Street,
No,
ribbon cutting or anything? Okay.
no. They're just gonna use them for storage. They're not using them for. And these are, how old, Sean? 20, 30?
In 1994.
Yeah, because we used to do cross-country, like cross-country skiing on that grassy area outside of Elm Street. And then we couldn't do it anymore because they put the trailers up. And that was,
Your mother used to do all of that? Did your mother used to do all of that? 1994?
what?
Never mind.
Sorry.
All right, so 30 years old.
So rather
Wow.
than having to pay somebody to dispose of them, DPW's taking them.
Yep. And the big metal, the pillars underneath, right?
Cement thing, actually, the cement foundations for some of them already at DPW. We took them back, so we didn't have to have them rebuilt, so we saved that cost.
Yep.
Okay, Sean, invoices?
Invoices, first one's for Allied Universal for work at Dr. Crisp, $1,680. One invoice from Cleanorama for, provided the walk-off mats and the sorted carpet materials. From McCarthy, $7,113.71. If you happen to go to McCarthy, there's 2 walk-off carpets just as you go in that with the school logo on them. Looks very nice. As part of that cost. College-bound movers had an additional invoice, $1,000 from McCarthy Middle School. EEI, 2 invoices for their work at Birchill, Maine Dunstable, totaling $394,209.52. Harriman Architect, invoices for Birchill, Maine Dunstable, McCarthy, and Pennachuck, totaling $44,509.42. Have 5 invoices from Harvey Construction for their work at Birchill, Maine Dunstable, McCarthy, Pennachuck, and Dr. Crisp, totaling $1,772,848.85. One invoice from Hayner Swanson for work at McCarthy Middle School, $687.50. One invoice from H.L. Turner Group, architect for the Dr. Crisp project for $4,200. One invoice from Intra Systems, was an IT material that we purchased for $176,212.80. 5 invoices from John Turner Consulting, our testing agent, work at Birch Hill, Dr. Chris, Patrick, Industrial, and McCarthy, totaling $9,871.29. One invoice for Page Street Leasing for a ground storage unit, $105. 2 invoices from RPF Environmental for their industrial hygienist, Birchville Main Dunstable, $19,525. Star Cycle, 1 invoice. McCarthy, they are the company that was leasing us the shredding machines. That was $1,655. And 1 invoice from Turner Building and Science, commissioning agent, work at McCarthy, $15,358.02. You total those out by project, middle school project, $621,202.51. Penachuk, dehumidification project, $146,268.20. For the Birchville main municipal renovations, $1,297,803.28. And for the security vestibule project, $383,702.12. All those total, $2,443,785.29.
I'll need a motion to approve the invoices for the middle school project in the amount of $621,202.51. Penachuk Middle School, $146,268.20. Birch Hill Main Dunstable, $1,297,803.28, and the security vestibule project, $383,702.12, for total invoices of $2,443,785.29.
So moved.
By Ms. Julio. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. By the way, last month that was 8 million. Getting down. Comments by committee members? Yes.
Had a, thank you.
I mean,
We had a great back to school day today, and I want to thank all the teachers and all the principals that came out and gave their time and energy to welcome my kids back to school. It was great.
I just have a question. When is there going to be a dedication of the McCarthy School?
Thinking of having a ribbon cutting just for formality, but now we're going to just have the ribbon cutting with the formal ceremony like we did at Penachuk when we finished that project. And it will be once the kids are back in school. We haven't got a date yet. Superintendent.
Okay. Thank you.
Bez?
Yeah, I just wanted to recognize former Alderman Marion Malizi. I think she's on the Fire Commission now. She's been doing a lot with organizing the Nashua Goes Back to School. Similarly, the Soup Kitchen's backpack drive was Wednesday and Tuesday, mostly Tuesday. And so I wanted to acknowledge all the work that Carol Weeks puts in on behalf of those organizations, because we all know it means a lot to kids to be able to get the supplies they need and to start the school comfortably. So there's people in Nashua who really put a tremendous amount of work into this kind of stuff behind the scenes, and I think it's good for us to recognize them.
Else? Alderman Sullivan?
Thank you. I know that we already approved them, but could we please check the math on the invoices? I'm coming up with a different total. That's about $5,190 off. Not tonight, but just for record keeping.
Else? So, just a side light, we were talking about a transformer before. I don't know if you saw on the Union Leader, there was a transformer that was built by Bull's Transformers in Portsmouth and brought to Amherst, New Hampshire. And the transformer weighed over 1 million pounds. Did the transfer in two links overnight, 2 nights, because they had to block traffic. I actually got to see it when it was parked, and that thing was huge. I don't know what it's being used for, but that's one heck of a transformer. Okay, anything else? Need a non-public? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 8:40.